Hey,
Hey,
this is Andrea. I'm Rudy's breaking stuff. I'm talking pools, host one or two. I get to be
and I'm
host one.
thing
It was
number
my
two.
idea.
Thing number two, always underrated,
And
always
and
second. That's
Rudy
okay. I
is
don't
here
mind.
as well.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this episode.
Sorry.
So, in this one, we actually are going to piggyback on the Monday episode, Monday's Down Under with Peter, Shane, and Lee. Again, going over ORP a little.
Sorry.
I'm going to talk to
Hold
everybody
on.
else while you're doing that. So
Sorry.
thank you for coming and checking into Andrea Sideways now into our episode. And we appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and join us for our chat. And Andrea was not with us last week. So apparently she had
Yeah,
waded
sorry
out
about that.
into the Indian River and was bitten by a large stingray.
I was
No
not.
harm, no foul.
Stingrays do
The
not
stingray
bite.
died a few hours later from the bite.
Very funny. I mean, I don't know what. I'm not toxic enough to cause a stingray to perish. Bite. They sting you.
They sting.
They stab
Yeah.
you.
And for the most part, anywhere in your body, it is not lethal, although you will require hospitalization. There is one spot, however, where it is lethal, and that's what happened to
Directly
Steve Irwin,
into your heart.
right in the abdomen.
Oh, I thought it was in
And
his heart.
I've jumped in to swim with stingrays and sharks and stuff like that before, and I guess it's always a risk that you'll get bit in some way, shape, or form. So, that was the first thing everybody said when I posted the video of me swimming with the giant stingray. It's like, that killed Steve Irwin. See?
Of
So look at
course.
that.
Well, I don't think
I
it
did
was
it better
like
than him.
hot. Lantern. I don't know. Well, whatever. R.I.P. Steve.
What's going on, guys? Pete the Pool Guy, Coachella Valley Pool's daily dose, tip of the day, tip of the day. Today's tip of the day, let's talk TDS. TDS means total dissolved solids. TDS measures all the dissolved substances in your pool water, including minerals, salts, and organic matter. Your high TDS levels can affect water clarity and reduce the effectiveness of sanitizers. It's recommended to start draining your pool when your TDS is 1,500 to 2,000 parts per million above the starting TDS, meaning when you first fill the pool with fresh water. TDS, tip of the day.
Tip of the day is brought to you by Coachella Valley Pools on Instagram.
As a pool owner, servicer, or property manager, I'm sure you've experienced the frustration of dealing with a faulty pool heater. Pool water can be extremely harsh on traditional heat exchangers, shortening the lifespan and causing frequent repairs. That's why Raypak created an exclusive solution, NITEC, with 900% more nickel compared to cupronickel in critical surfaces to protect against scale formation and erosion. If you're looking for longevity, efficiency, and strength in your product, head over to raypackdoor.com/NITEC.
So where were
I
you
was,
last week? Talk to
well,
us.
it
What
was a
happened?
holiday week. It was a holiday last week, so I was super busy
What?
trying to get my pools done because we did not work Friday. I mean, not Friday. We worked Friday. We did not work Thursday. And just catching up on people that got missed, and it was a busy week. And it was my son's birthday that week.
Oh, well, happy birthday to Andrea's son.
Thank you. He's 20.
His name, I think, is Seamus. Is it not Seamus?
Sandro.
Sandros. I was
Not
close. It started with an S.
Seamus. That is definitely not close.
If he was an Amish child, that's what he would have been named, Seamus.
Or if he
Seamus!
was,
Time to pick the corn, Seamus. Huh?
or if he was Irish.
Primate company. Primate. They make the telepoles, right? The carbon
Primate.
telepoles. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Primate. So I saw that they posted something on Instagram, and to me, it just stuck in my head. It's like, I want a fucking pole. But then all of a sudden, to me, that was like MTV. Like, I want my MTV. I want my fucking pole. So then in my head, all I could hear was,
I want my fucking pole. Look at them pool guys. That's the way you do it.
Nice.
look at them pool guys. That's the way you do it. So I couldn't get it out of my head. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
That's hilarious.
So things are good here. A lot of questions popping up about ORP.
ORP. Oxidation.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Or reduction. Potential program.
Yep. Oxidation reduction potential,
Potential. Oh, I
which
got it right.
is a
Hooray.
measure of the oxidizing capacity of the water, which is basically the electron activity of the solution, the potential
This is
to allow something to oxidize something else. That's what it's measuring.
the
Doesn't mean it's doing
measurement
it.
of its ability to oxidize.
It's the measurement of the effectiveness of the sanitizer. And chlorine, it's not a direct measure, it's an indirect measure. So ORP
So it's not going
measures
to like
the
relate to directly to
oxidizing.
the free chlorine level.
No, you can't. It won't. So again, it measures the oxidizing capacity of the water. Chlorine happens to affect the oxidizing capacity of the water. So we get an indirect measure by looking at ORP. But one of the examples that came up just this morning, and to what you just said, somebody was stating, okay, normally I maintain my ORP at 720
I saw this
millivolts.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen this, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And
mm-hmm.
then that carries a 4 part per million chlorine level. So after he shocks the pool, then he's still to 720 millivolts, but now he only has 2 parts per million of chlorine, and he's getting 720. So he was confused about that for a couple of reasons. One, he didn't know why it was happening, but number two, because the health official wants to see the chlorine level in a certain place. So, how do we tie millivolts into that? If they also want to see millivolts between like 650 and is it 650 and 800, most of them?
I think it's
how high does he have to go to get the chlorine level back up? So he had a 4 part per million at 720. He shocked it, and then he had a 2 part per million still at 720. And the reason for that's simple. When he shocked it, what did he do?
He cleared up all the combined chlorine.
Combined chlorine and any other type of schmutz in there that would actually
reduce
the electron activity.
And anything else that's in there floating around.
Correct. Algae, things along those lines, schmutz,
Meg.
all of that type of stuff. So, again, you've been forbidden to use that word.
You could schmutz. It's the same thing.
It is not the same thing.
It's definitely the same difference.
Schmutz. No, actually, if you look it up,
I know what schmegma is.
The top layer that forms on a filter.
Yeah. Schmegma
is the exact definition. Look it up. Yep. So anyway, hey Siri, what does schmutz mean?
Oh my God.
Schmutz is an informal term. It means dirt or a similar unpleasant substance.
See? Very different. Well, I guess it's also unpleasant, but it doesn't matter. So we got that going on. So basically what he did was he made the water cleaner. By making the water cleaner, that means you did not need as much chlorine to have the same oxidizing power. When there was more junk in the pool, when there was more gook, you like that word better? When there was more gook in the pool, then you needed a higher chlorine level to get that level of activity.
I don't enjoy that word at all.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Perfect sense.
Okay.
Maybe this is the one that we both saw, because I saw a guy who was asking why the ORP, why the millivolts went up, but the free chlorine level stayed the same. I think the free chlorine level was like a 4 or something like that. And the millivolts, the ORP went from, it wasn't a huge jump. It went from like 800 to 840 or like something like that. It was not a huge jump, but I remember I saw him ask that. And I didn't answer the question and I didn't comment or anything like that. But in my head, I thought that same thing was because he must have super clean water. Nothing to kill.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing to get rid of.
And it comes down to what you're measuring. If I'm going to maintain my pool based off of millivolts, that means I'm going to see the part per million of free chlorine fluctuate over time, up and down, depending on what else is in the water. If I'm going to maintain my pool based off of the parts per million of chlorine, that means I'm going to see my millivolts fluctuate over time, up and down. But again, it's just the oxidizing capacity. So if you remember, and I think I've told you this story before, but it's probably one of the better stories I have about ORP. In 2016, the Olympics in Brazil, when the dive pool turned green.
Yes.
So that we talked about it before, but again, it ties into this. So if you haven't heard the story, I'll go through it.
A refresh.
If you've heard the story, I apologize. So
Skip ahead
anyway,
15 seconds.
Olympic pool. All
What year?
eyes in the world looking at this pool. Brazil,
What year
2016.
was it?
Everybody's looking at this pool, most popular pool in the world. People are looking at it 24/7 all around the world. It's in Brazil. The people of Brazil want the world to have a great experience. They don't want anybody to look down on what they're doing. Plus, they have guests from all over the planet coming. One of the things that they know is that the water in Brazil has a very high sulfide level, naturally, which means that the water smells like rotten eggs.
But
That's
smells
just
like
the natural
that.
odor of the water. So they're ready for this and they know about this. So one of the things that they do as a precaution is they bring in large amounts of hydrogen peroxide, not like Walgreens strength, but super strength for pool use. So they bring that in. Their plan is if anybody starts to complain or if they notice an odor, they'll add the hydrogen peroxide to the water. Okay, so now let's backtrack. This pool there is built by Murtha. That's a popular company that builds a lot of pools for the Olympics, for FINA games all around the country at different universities, etc. These are the pools where they actually come in and lay out the sheets of vinyl and seam them in place. They set up this pool. They set it to work with liquid chlorine. In that system, they added an ORP controller, which automates it, right? It sends a message to the peristaltic pump. It tells it when to add liquid chlorine and when to not. Correct?
Yep.
Based off the millivolt reading. But remember, ORP doesn't measure the chlorine level. It measures the oxidizing capacity of water. Chlorine affects the oxidizing capacity of water. So this is important. Well, the games are going on. I believe it's the Australian team that mentions or says something along the lines of, hey, the water is starting to get a musky smell to it.
Ew.
So they react. They want to take care of it quickly. They don't want anybody to have any problems. They don't want any complaints. So they add the hydrogen peroxide to the water, immediately oxidizes the sulfides. Smell goes away. Good to go, right? But hydrogen peroxide is also a chlorine neutralizer. So in getting rid of the sulfide level, they also got rid of all the chlorine. Now the chlorine level is at 0. So, but that's okay, right? Because we have ORP. It's going to see that we don't have chlorine, and it's going to tell the system to add more.
No, because it's going to shut itself off.
Why?
Because of the stupid, ridiculous alarm, but the alarms shut off.
Hydrogen peroxide also affects the oxidizing capacity of the water. So the ORP system is reading it as though we have plenty of chlorine. Wow, look at how much chlorine there is. Don't add any more. So it's not adding any more chlorine because it already thinks the chlorine level is good or even too high. Now, here we have a pool that's almost on the equator. No chlorine, can't get any chlorine. So it quickly turns green. And that's what happened there. But it's a good example of what we're talking about because ORP, again, measures the oxidizing capacity of the water, not the chlorine level. It will measure anything that's interfering or affecting the oxidizing capacity of the water. It measures bromine. It measures hydrogen peroxide. It can measure all those different things. It doesn't differentiate. So it's thinking the hydrogen peroxide in this case is chlorine. However, hydrogen peroxide is actually a very shitty sanitizer when used all by itself. It's phenomenal when used with ozone or with UV. Then it's probably one of the best that you can get because that gives us AOP. Advanced Oxidation Process. So that lends to that. But here we don't have that. So it quickly turns green.
Rudy and Andrea will be right back with more Flocket Fridays after these messages.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable, and these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with a pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleanings faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Pool Magazine is the hottest new publication for the pool and spa industry, featuring up-to-the-minute news on what's happening in the pool world in a fresh new stylized format with our mobile-friendly app. Pool Magazine is the app for keeping your fingers on the pulse of the pool industry. You'll find featured news, editorials, podcasts, videos, and more on the Pool Magazine app. Download on Google Play and the App Store.
Here's a way we could look at it. If I asked you how big your company was, you owned a pool service company. If I asked you how big your company was, and you told me, well, I have 5 pool service techs, that would be like telling me how much chlorine you have. I have 5 pool service techs. But if I had asked you how large your company is, and you responded, we service 500 pools a week, that would be closer to what your ORP is. Because the way that those 5 employees work affects how many pools you can get done in a week. So you have 5 great employees. They do 100 pools each a week. That's 500 pools a week. That would be your ORP. Now, if you said you have 5 employees, again, your chlorine level, you could have easily said, though, and we service 150 pools a week. So how many pools you're servicing each week gives me a better idea of how well your employees are working. So now let's go back to the ideal. Let's take those 5 employees, which represents our chlorine, and our 500 pools a week that we can maintain, which represents our ORP. This is in ideal conditions. What happens if one of these employees has a bad week? The ORP goes down. What happens if there's a heat advisory that affects that number, that 500 that we're trying to get to? What if it's torrential downpours all week? What if we have a weather event? Similar to what we have going on with ORP, there are many factors that contribute to that number. Chlorine, yes, does affect the oxidizing capacity of the water, but there are other things that affect it as well that come into play.
Jack's Magic Products is your industry leader in identifying, removing, and preventing stains. How? With a range of high-performance, eco-friendly products, keeping pools safe, clean, and ready to use all year round. The Jack's Magic 3-step program is a quick and effective way to remove stains and scaling. First, we identify the problem, then our top-quality products will remove the discoloration. Finally, our preventative solutions will keep your pool looking like new for much longer. Get helpful tips and check out our product catalog today at jacksmagic.com.
Now, the other things that affect ORP, if the pH goes up, what happens?
That's when it tells the thing to stop feeding acid, even though you'd think that when the pH goes up and it goes over whatever 8.2 or something like that, you would think that it would tell the system to pump acid into it, but it doesn't. It shuts off, and then you got to manually fix it.
But it also lowers the ORP.
pH does?
You get it. If your pH goes high, that will lower ORP.
It's been a long time since I've dealt with an ORP system because they're not required. They're required on spas, and the commercial that I do now does not have one. So,
automation, I believe you're right. Some type of automation is required on the pool for feeding disinfectant on every pool, every commercial pool.
On the pool, it needs to have at least
every pool and spa.
A Stenner or it's got to have a peristaltic. It's got to have a chem feeder. It doesn't necessarily have. It's not required to have the ORP. Spas are though.
Correct.
You have to have that in spa.
Correct.
But my commercial that I do now does not have a spa. It's just a pool.
What you usually see on the spa is also automation for pH. On the smaller pools throughout the state of Florida, you do not typically see automation for pH control, which is a damn shame because that would be wonderful.
And I think the builders around here need to start doing that for salt systems. Put in a salt system, put in a little acid feeder as well.
Okay.
That's what I would like to see. Any builders listening, do it.
That would be amazing on residential pools.
Yeah, it would be.
So another thing that affects ORP?
CYA, cyanuric acid.
Cyanuric acid does, and we're going to get to that in a second. But before we get to that one, let's hit temperature. Because temperature does have a direct effect on the ORP of a solution, and an increase in temperature speeds up the dissociation of molecules in the liquid, which increases the ORP.
Huh.
So we have that to look at. Then another common question I get relating to cyanuric acid. Here you go. This one is yours. Cyanuric acid. Why is my ORP higher in the morning than it is in the afternoon? I've heard this said a bunch of different ways, and we've simplified it so much that it actually sounds like something that would happen in Disney versus anything else. People say the chlorine only attaches to cyanuric acid when there's sunlight. Well, how does the chlorine know to do that? How does the cyanuric acid know to do that? Neither do. It's just been simplified to that point. It always attaches and unattaches. It quickly attaches. It's very momentary, and then it leaves, and then another molecule attaches, and then it leaves. But in sunlight with UV rays, the bond between hypochlorous acid, the killing form of chlorine, and cyanuric acid is much more stable out. So then the ORP rises because the chlorine's not tied up with cyanuric acid. So the ORP goes up, the oxidizing capacity of the water increases. Now daylight in sunlight, now the cyanuric acid and the hypochlorous acid is staying together a little bit better. And that's the reason why the ORP drops. And again, high cyanuric acid would cause your ORP to do what? Just on its own, without even the example I spoke about.
It makes it go down. It lowers it, right?
Cyanuric acid reduces the effectiveness of chlorine, period, the end. It just does. Now, how much it reduces it after 50 parts per million, 80 parts per million, 90 parts per million, that in comparison to one number or the next, that's a whole different episode. But do know as the cyanuric acid level goes up, the ORP does go down. So we have all of those different things going on. Plus now bacterial growth will play a role. Algae will play a role. Actually uses up oxygen in the water, which makes it drop. So it's not that mysterious. I actually like ORP. I suggested once at a conference that instead of chasing the free chlorine level, that we focus on ORP. And I was shut quickly down by somebody else who was on the panel. But the point is that ORP measures how effective the chlorine is in the water.
Right.
Not how much chlorine is in the water, but how effective it is. And isn't that really what we care about?
Yeah.
Again, the important thing to remember is it measures the oxidizing capacity of the water. It's how well your disinfectant is working. It does not differentiate between disinfectants. That's what happened in Brazil with the hydrogen peroxide story. I think that's important for everybody to know. There are a lot of factors that affect ORP like we covered: pH, temperature, cyanuric acid level. Do expect your ORP to be higher with a lower chlorine level if the water is cleaner. Takes less chlorine to do the job. It takes less chlorine to be as effective. And then the other thing, don't be surprised when you see that your ORP is higher in the morning than it is throughout the course of the day. And again, ORP stands for
Oxidation reduction potential.
Perfect.
I used to play this game on the internet called Acrophobia, and it would give you a bunch of acronyms, and you would make up a phrase or like something, and you would that matched the acronym, and then everybody would vote on it, and and it was a really fun game.
Interesting. Well, I guess that's good. We have a lot of acronyms in the industry.
We do. We certainly do.
How many did we cover today?
ORP, AOP, PPM,
AOP,
CPO,
CYA. Did we say CYA or did I call it cyanuric acid? I might have said CYA.
I said CYA.
Okay, there you go. So just in this episode alone, which was really just majorly on one topic, how many acronyms?
Acronyms? Oh, how many acronyms do we have in this industry?
So now you're going to pick on the way I speak.
Thanks for not letting me down.
But so anyway, that's ORP. That's what I wanted to talk with you about today, and because it's relevant. It's a question that seems to be coming up a lot right now, and that's probably because we've made it into past the beginning of the season. We're in the middle of the season, and most of the people that are using pools are friggin' disgusting and don't take showers. Unless they bathe in the pool, which is
what they do. Thing. There's memes about that, like, oh, the kids don't need to take baths in the summer; they got the pool. Like,
So there goes what is the summer, like 2.5 months
joking long? About that though. They are dead ass serious.
So Memorial Day through Labor Day, their kids don't wash their ass. How cool is that? Put them on the bus; they'll be good to go. It's time to shower again.
Yeah. So
Friday,
I'll be heading down to Key West on when this comes out. So. Hopefully I'll be snorkeling. Mashed potatoes. I'm going to be at if anybody's coming to the show, say hi to me. It's a little small show, so probably not a lot of people will know about it. But yeah, I'll be snorkeling. I'll be in the Keys. So I'll be having fun. Anyway, that's it. That's our show. So thanks for listening. Follow us.
There you go.
Like us.
So really, yep.
I mean, you can subscribe to us on Facebook. I don't think we really put out subscription content, but it's there if you want to give us your $1. And
for some reason, we have 5,000 followers on our Facebook page. Nobody knows why.
No, that's good, actually.
They're there. Yeah. And we don't post shit. So there's that. I do you do on your Andrea the Pool Girl page, and I do on my Rudy the Pool Man page. Andrea... Right. We post a lot of content. We both do. And I think both pages are fairly active.
Yeah.
You kick my ass on that as well, but that's to be expected. So anyway.
All right. Well, that's
all I got. We love you guys. Thank you. Until next time, be good. Be safe.
What's your problem?